if you have not already seen part 1 and part 2 of my Daoism presentation, you should better go back and check those out. If not, you know you're a rebel, you're living on the edge, you just check out this one, well, I'm not gonna tell you, you know, you live on the edge, you know, I respect that. But anyway, you're gonna be confused. Like I said again, my name is Lily Rice, and this is my presentation on Daoism. So let's get off this screen, let's go to the next one, talk about our guy, Laozai. So I've kind of teased a couple times before that Laozai wasn't actually a person, was he? So historians, not 100% sure, but he is credited with being a real person. He lived, again, question mark, in the 6th century BC, which was before Daoism has really taken off. There had been some writings, like I said, there were a lot of writings about Daoism, but not any of like the main ones. So if you've ever heard the story about Benjamin Button, which was the guy who was born and he came out as an old guy, I'm pretty sure that's a Mark Twain, not 100% sure. It's like what Laozai was born as. Legends say that he was born as an old man, which is weird, but he was very wise. So as the story goes, Laozai was living, and he decided that he was going to leave China. And he had already gained all his wisdom, he'd done all he wanted to do, he said all he wanted to say, and he was leaving China. But as he was leaving, this border patrol guard said, "Wait a minute, aren't you Laozai?" And Laozai was like, "Yes, I am." And the border patrol guard was like, "Please, give me your wisdom." And so Laozai was like, "Okay." I'm pretty sure in ancient China, he didn't say okay, but you know, you get the idea. He gave his wisdom to this border patrol guard. And then after that, he left into the mountains. It's not really quite sure. There are a couple different versions of the myths. But some say that he went to the mountains and lived out the rest of his life there, or may still be there, or that he went to India and became my goodness, that's not supposed to say to you. That's supposed to say that he became the Buddha, which, you know, my bad, sorry about that. Some say that there's some myths that say that he went to Persia, or that he just ascended into the heavens. Again, it's not sure, it's still a legend, but there are a lot of stories and mythos around Laozai. There are talks about him having conversations, arguing with Confucius about different ways of living. And the most important thing about Laozai to remember is that he's credited with writing the Tao Te Ching. What's the Tao Te Ching, you may ask? Well, I'm so happy to tell you. Alright, the Tao Te Ching. Again, pronunciations can also be known as the Tao Te Ching, or also called the Laozi, or sometimes just Laozai after the author. The breakdown of the words literally means Tao is the way, which we've talked about a couple different times. D is power or virtue, like power inside. And then Jing is classic. So the classic way of power, the classic way of virtue. It originated in about the 3rd or 4th century BCE. So it was written a little bit later than Laozai was around. But the ideas, again, are older, they've been carried along for a long time and just kind of compiled into this book. It's timeless, literally. Why it's kind of hard to place is because there's not any references to other historical happenings within it. So it's different from, if you've ever read the Bible, or why is English hard today? The Tanakh. In the Old Testament of the Judeo Bible, there is a big section called Psalms, and there are also a lot about praising God and different ways to interpret life and stuff. One thing about the Psalms is you can compare them in time to different events that are happening in other parts of the Bible. So you can it has time dates to it, depending on, especially I think it's chapter 51 or 52 talking about David's affair. Those, you can date those events to what's happening in the story in kind of comparison. The Tao Te Ching is not. It's timeless. There's not, and it kind of stands it can be interpreted today, now, and forever. There's no anything to kind of back it up. There are 81 chapters, and they're relatively short. They're almost like small poems. Most of them are. They're broken up into two parts. The mystical Tao, talking about the different ways of the Tao and how it functions, and then the political or social D section, the power section. It's broken up to like talk about two different sides of the spectrum. And I've seen readings of the Tao Te Ching like on YouTube. You can read it in about an hour and a half, or it's been read aloud, so an hour and a half. Okay. There's a big theme of return/reversal, and things about going back to the uncarved rock. Just ways to live and relive. So what does that mean? So let's go ahead and read a section from the Tao Te Ching, which is called the Great Tao. So this says, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. The Great Tao is all-encompassing. Its influences pervade all directions. All living things depend on it. But the Tao works quietly. It accomplishes, yet makes no claims. It provides clothing and nourishments, yet does not take command over anything. Ever inspiring for non-existence, it can be called little. Providing a home to all living units, yet claiming no ownership. It can be called great, exactly because the Tao never takes itself as great. It is truly great. Okay, so that's a big topic. There's a lot to break down in there. Kind of going back to different elements of the Tao being a sustainer, as it provides clothing and nourishments. It's great, as it again, it's powerful. It's all around. Its influence pervade all directions. It's all encompassing. These are directly from the Tao Te Ching. And talking about what we know about the Tao, my bad. Okay, so I said a second ago talking about return and reversal. What does this mean? So I said earlier that humans are born with Tao, right? Like it's already inside of them. So it's kind of like these big marble. This is just a truck that's carrying a big blocks of marble. You can argue, so what Confucianism kind of works towards is Confucianism wants you to be like that statue. That humans are born as marble and you cut them down and then you make a statue and that's what humans are supposed to be. However, Daoism argues that humans are meant to be in this base state, that every cut, every slice, every little, what is it? When you're like carving something, a little shimmy, you know, that those take away from what people are supposed to be. They're not natural, that they aren't, Confucianism like focus heavily on social etiquette and fulfilling different roles, and that depletes from what the person is supposed to be. And so returning back to Daoism from the statue that people are carved into, back to kind of the base of the rock, is a big idea of returning to who you're supposed to be. Okay, so return and reverse. Well, that's cool. I didn't know that transition did that. Okay, return and reversal again. So you have return. You also have reversal. So once you've already come back to, okay, I want to live naturally, I want to be like the Tao, you reverse kind of the way you're living. So how that works is you kind of let life kind of happen around you. You're not a big influencer on what's going on. You want to, if you kind of yield to life and kind of like step away from just getting in the action, a lot of people like really take charge and are gonna like, you know, go for it. But Daoism says it's better to just kind of take a step back and let life kind of happen, and that will be what happens is natural, what you kind of go through afterwards. An important concept here is wu wei, which means acting minimally, taking less actions, or acting spontaneously as nature does. So an example of this would be kind of, people talk about the infant and the waterfall in Daoism, that the water is flowing and that's a natural thing for the water to do. It's not jumping up and down, literally, like it's not jumping and running around the stream, it's just flowing like naturally, and babies don't really know anything. They're just kind of doing their own thing, and they, you know, when they're hungry, they cry, and they just kind of waddle around and have old ladies say, oh, look how cute you are, you know. They're just kind of doing their own thing. They're not focusing on doing anything else. An example of Wu Wei can be kind of like if you've decided that you're hungry, you don't have any money, and like a forceful action would be to like go ask someone, hey, will you please like feed me, I'm hungry. A non-action would be just kind of sitting and waiting for something to happen, and nothing's gonna happen. But Wu Wei is more of like waiting for the right thing to happen and have someone like, hey, giving out free sandwiches, here you go, and just kind of like kind of having that happen, rather than you're still acting, you're still doing things, but it's not a full expectation of everything's going to happen, I'm going to take charge, or I'm not going to do anything, and that's the point. It's letting things happen naturally. So this is a little graphic I made. Who am I? So how in society or in everyday life we're labeled. You know, I'm a student, I'm a friend, I'm a daughter, I'm a roommate. But according to Daoism, these things don't describe who I am. I can be described as in a lot of ways, like, oh yeah, I'm the captain of this, or I'm the captain of this, or even like I describe myself, I'm a student. But that's not who I am. I am something much more natural and full, and something that isn't quantified by labels. Yeah. So I keep talking a lot about Daoism versus Confucianism, and here's my cute little graphic. Confucianism says that humans are, well, firstly, that humans have to work to be human. People have to work to be human, and have to focus on restoring their human-heartedness, their kindness, and being able to filling their own role in society. And there's a very big like key relationships and how you're supposed to react in those. While Daoism is more along the lines of live naturally, live your own. You are your own self without any of the other social expectation. The individual is who you are. So there's a lot of Daoists that kind of go off on their own and kind of find their own paths, that individually we are who we're supposed to be. However, it is interesting that while there are some conflicts more early on, there are a lot of arguments over Daoism and Confucianism, especially in China modernly. There's obviously been like a bigger upturn in Confucianism in China, but just because of just different social things. But people can pick and choose between different facets of Daoism and Confucianism, and that's okay. It's not a very strict system. Okay, so we talked a lot about this, but what's the problem and solution in Daoism? So the problem is that humans are trapped and confined by their social expectations, that every day I wake up and I have to, if I am single, I've been single for a minute, but if I was a married woman, I would get up and I am going to make my husband breakfast, and then I'm going to go to work, and I'm going to please my boss, and I'm going to all the while be under my ruler, and I'm also going to take care of my children and like raise them the right way. And there's a lot of expectations of like exactly how to live and do life. The solution is what Daoism is offering, is returning to the Tao, the natural way of life, the way of life that is inside all of us, that we can go back and find, that we're able to grow on our own and become one with nature and be natural. How we do that is we've talked about returning and reversal, and we also talked a little bit about balance earlier, that everything in life should be kept in balance to make an individual the best person and the most natural person they can be. Okay. So a couple times we have talked about yin and yang. So like I said, it's not this is the good and bad, this is the bad and good. Yin and yang is a concept of more active and passive energy, and both are important. Both are like needed in balance. So for the white section is called yang. It is active. It's portrayed generally as masculine, and it's positive energy, and it can be compared to Confucianism as like active role, active energy, actively doing things. Yin is passive. It's described as more feminine, and it's negative energy in some sense, and it's more close to Daoism. You will notice on the slide, I've crossed out good and I've crossed out evil, because neither of these things they're not bad or good. They're just concepts. They're beyond what evil and good are, you know. A passive, more feminine, negative energy, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Everything is important and balanced. Of course, you can have too much of a good thing, but it's not necessarily about good and evil. It's just about either, well, activeness and passiveness, and there are other ways to describe yin and yang. But that's pretty much, the takeaway here is not good or evil, just is. Keeping them in balance is the way to help restore Drow. Yeah, saying Drow. Okay. So we've got some more scripture from the Dao Jing Jing again. And also kind of talking about balance a little bit, the theme of that. So this is from the Dao Jing Jing, Relativity and the New Resistance. So this says, people under heaven, which we also kind of talked about a little bit in Confucianism, that heaven is just a concept of, you know, it's not always really well defined, but there's always heaven ideals. Okay. People under heaven see beauty in what they call beauty. The way they know of the ugly. Similarly, people see good in what they call good. That's the way they know of the bad. Existence and emptiness are concepts that made by sense of comparison. Similarly, law blends meaning to short and high to low. Harmony is produced when sounds combine in unison. Because the fore goes, so back follows. Thus the sage would not act as he could not act against his will. His teachings are the unspoken teaching. No word was ever spoken, yet living things thrive. No ownership ever claimed, yet the nature begets all creation. Humility is maintained, all achievements is made. No credit is claimed, although the work is done, because no credit is claimed and the credit is ever lost. So this is also talking about different, like the way of the Tao is, but also kind of talking about comparison. You know, we have like the ugly, beautiful, what's bad and good. Again, it's all relative. What's long, what's short, what's high, what's low. It's in balance and kind of relativity of life. Also talking about, it's also important to point out the sage here described is, that's like an exemplar, a sage and exemplar in certain Taoist texts. And just the way the Tao isn't proud, it just is. Okay, so, all right, we got another one, pop quiz. All right, this is important. I hope you guys have been paying attention. So, true or false? According to Daoism, I am at my best, or a person is at their best, when they fulfill the role designated for them in society, that they do what they are like set up for them. Is that true or false? That's false. We've talked about that. That's Confucianism. Daoism says is that you're better individually when you are natural and in your own way. All right, true or false? Yin and yang are concepts that are neither good nor evil and are important for keeping balance in life. Is that true or false? That one's true. Yeah, yin and yang are both important balance concepts. You know, there's good, there's bad, there's active, there's passive, and coming together in balance, it makes a better life. Okay, and then our third question is true or false? Lao Tzu wrote in a narrative, goofy way. We've read some Lao Tzu script. Is that true or false? That's false. We read those other sections. We read those other scriptures from the Tao Te Ching, and that's not how Lao Tzu writes at all. Where did that come from, Emily? Well, I will tell you in the next section.